Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today we're unpacking something pretty intense. We're looking at a stark, highly critical, and quite frankly, deeply cynical geopolitical analysis coming directly from European experts and observers. We're talking about their assessment of Donald Trump's leadership and what they describe as its dangerous, destabilizing impact on global security. You see, for many in Europe, the old illusion of him just being an eccentric politician with a loud mouth, yeah, that's completely dead. In its place, analysts have constructed a pitch-black picture of a leader essentially operating a global syndicate. So, we're going to visually break down exactly how these European psychiatrists, political analysts, and economic experts deconstruct his psychology, his tactics, and the absolutely devastating fallout for Europe. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the dark triad profile. 2, weaponizing lies and delusions. 3, Europe's co-narcissism and submission. 4, the ultimate market manipulation. 5, the Russian geopolitical deal. And finally, number 6, a syndicate disguised as leadership. All right, kicking things off with part 1, the dark triad profile, analyzing the psychological core. So, European experts and psychiatrists have basically thrown out the playbook. They've completely abandoned the idea of looking at this leadership through a standard political lens. Instead, to actually understand the actions, they apply a very specific psychological label, the dark triad. It's this incredibly dangerous cocktail of Machiavellianism, psychopathy, and pure narcissism. To put that into perspective for the layperson, Machiavellianism means manipulating and exploiting people with zero morality. Add psychopathy, meaning a total lack of empathy, and extreme narcissism, and you get a leader who observers say isn't running on policy at all, but on pure ego and an endless desire for permanent disruption. And for the everyday European looking across the Atlantic, he's viewed as the ultimate gaslighter. If you aren't familiar, gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where an abuser makes the victim question their own reality. Analysts point out that this administration deliberately destroys the truth on a daily basis. Why? Well, it's a tactic to mask personal failures and to constantly sow division. Because think about it, if no one can even agree on basic facts, the leader can operate with zero accountability. Moving right along to part 2, weaponizing lies and delusions, the tactical execution. Now, what's really interesting about this is that the constant lying we see is no longer considered just political spin by these analysts. No, it's viewed as a conscious, highly dangerous method to literally shatter reality. Observers point to a really stark contrast here. On one side, you have the rhetoric, these absurd, grandiose claims of single-handedly solving 6 or 7 active wars. But then, European defense analysts point to the actual reality, a geopolitical landscape that is suddenly riddled with new, totally erratic military threats, caused directly by impulsive decisions. The delusion is weaponized to project strength, while the reality on the ground is terrifyingly unstable. And the delusions extend way beyond the battlefield. Get this, observers highlight a totally bizarre tirade where he actually demanded blind obedience from the Pope, mockingly claiming that the Vatican itself is completely subordinate to him. I mean, that isn't foreign policy, right? Experts argue this is driven by a deeply sick psychological need to publicly belittle and humiliate absolutely anyone who holds moral or institutional authority. Which brings us to part 3, Europe's co-narcissism and submission, the collateral damage. Honestly, for European analysts, the most painful part of all of this isn't just the behavior coming from across the Atlantic, it's the cowardly reaction of their own leaders. Behavioral experts use a fascinating, though pretty depressing term for this: co-narcissism. While many find the behavior absolutely repulsive, European leaders constantly act like fearful yes-men. They behave like a beaten dog, desperately trying to please a schoolyard bully in the vain hope of avoiding punishment, like, devastating economic tariffs. The collateral damage of this submission is just devastating. Democratic institutions are openly mocked. Traditional allies are casually insulted. International cooperation isn't about shared values anymore. It's literally treated like mafia-style extortion. Pay up or lose your protection. And because European leaders keep bowing to this pressure, it gives him absolute confirmation that the blackmail actually works. He even openly boasts that NATO now views him as a sort of daddy. This whole cowardly dynamic leaves Europe incredibly vulnerable. Let's move to part 4 and see how this builds. The ultimate market manipulation, the hidden financial motive. All right, look behind the political facade, and analysts point to the true underlying motive here: money. The business empire, which is this opaque web of hundreds of LLCs run by his sons, is wildly seen in Europe as an absolute joke when it comes to transparency. But the real outrage comes from how the presidency itself is allegedly being used. Corporate governance professors say the dynamic is glaringly obvious. Step 1. The inner circle gets advanced knowledge of disruptive political moves. Step 2. Highly provocative messages are blasted out on social media about sudden tariff pauses or unexpected strikes on Iran. Step 3. Trading volumes and global markets spike explosively in response to the chaos. And Step 4. Billions are quietly raked in by the entourage through insider trading. In fact, financial experts looking at these explosive trading patterns call it exactly what they think it is: the greatest market manipulation of all time. It is the ultimate grift, where politics, global security, and immense ego just seamlessly blend into personal financial gain for the inner circle. Now for part 5, the Russian geopolitical deal, the climax. This right here is viewed as the darkest shadow of the entire European analysis. The Kremlin understands this transactional nature perfectly. Former diplomats confirm that Putin knows this leader cares absolutely nothing for Western ideals, global stability, or NATO. He only cares for quick deals and material advantage. So under the guise of peace talks in Ukraine, leaked Russian memos suggest the real conversations are just about gigantic economic partnerships. For Europe, the proof is right there in the personnel. Instead of sending actual, seasoned diplomats to Moscow, he sent real estate cronies and his own son-in-law. Ukraine isn't a sovereign nation to be protected, it's a bargaining chip for the business empire. And this brilliantly illustrates the horrific double standard at play. Look at the European allies, the supposed friends of America. They were hit with billions in devastating import tariffs that absolutely crippled German and Dutch industries, ironically announced right on Europe's Liberation Day. Ouch. Meanwhile, Russia, a hostile foreign adversary, left completely untouched by the administration. Not a scratch. Prominent European analyst Rob DeWeek summarizes this terrifying reality with a razor-sharp conclusion. He says, Ukraine is on sale, just like European security. While European industries pay a massive price and long-standing alliances crumble, champagne bottles are happily popping in the Kremlin. Finally, we arrive at part 6, a syndicate disguised as leadership, the final verdict. So when you pull all these threads together, the psychological profiling, the gaslighting, the extortion of allies, and the market manipulation, a very specific, very grim picture emerges for the European observer. There is the public facade, a man selling himself on a brightly lit stage as the great patriotic savior of the nation. But the backroom reality is entirely different. European analysts literally see him operating simply as the vain CEO SE of a corrupt syndicate. He is viewed as a man who genuinely despises Europe, extorts his closest allies, and is perfectly willing to sell out Western security to a dictator simply because it makes for good business. So, what does this all mean? We are left with this final, incredibly provocative question. How long can Western security actually survive when it is treated as a mere business transaction for a syndicate? It's a remarkably dark reality to consider, but understanding this analytical perspective is absolutely crucial for grasping global geopolitics today. If you found this explainer insightful, make sure to subscribe to this channel and give this video a like. We'll see you in the next one.